All right. Jason Walter, National Land Realty. I am super excited to have you on this episode of the podcast. Guys, Jason and I go back to 2015. We met through a business mastermind that we were both a part of. We probably got some stories that we could share about that, but we'll see if we get time for it. So, Jason, opening question everybody gets: what does it mean for you to be intentional?
Well, it's good to see you, Mark. There's probably some stories we shouldn't tell as well.
That's right.
For me to be intentional means you have purpose. I think to me the two words are hand in hand. You can have a job or you can have a purpose, and the way you approach those two things are totally different. And so, no matter what it is you do, whether it's you're raising, kids, you can show them to school and make sure they do their homework, or you can actually have a purpose behind what you're trying to accomplish. Make sure they have their faith and they understand why they're going to school, and and that goes for anything you do, whether it's working out, whether it's as a husband, business leader. If you don't have purpose behind what you're doing, which to me is being intentional, then you just kind of flap it in the wind.
Yeah, just kind of floating, just floating through the day. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
A lot of organizations in the industry struggle with talent retention. I'm curious what that looks like in your business, because I know you have a lot of probably independent agents across. I know you guys are in like 48 of the 50 states, everywhere in the lower 48. So so I know that could be a challenge. And then I'm sure you have some in-house staff, but what do you guys do to kind of keep people around?
Well, and that goes back to purpose as well. We have a purpose at our company, and people feed off that. You can have the checklist, like you offer a yoga room or Zen room or whatever it is, and that doesn't last. That's just a short-term thing. Maybe they enjoy that for a few weeks, but you have to have a culture that they know you care. They know you care about them and their growth. You're right. We're in a bit different company in that we have 400 plus independent contractors, and we also have 40 plus W-2 employees. So, and those are totally different worlds in and of themselves, but we have extremely low turnover in an industry that's extremely high turnover. And we wake up every day trying to figure out, why do these people want to stay here? Because they can go somewhere else. And with that mindset, we're always looking to add value to their business or their job or their future. If you don't give people a path to grow, they're going to leave, or you're going to wish they had left.
That's a meme statement. I think right there, right? If you don't give them a path to grow, they're going to leave, or you're going to wish they had. And when you think about it, like that screams of intentionality. When I'm talking about intention, what does it mean to be an intentional leader, an intentional agribusiness leader, whatever the case may be? Like I love your definition of its purpose, right? Having a purpose. And we also think about like, well, how do you deploy that? Well, you got to wake up and think, well, how do I work on my purpose instead of being reactive to the day to day? And I think a lot of people get stuck just reacting to what they think people want, or reacting to the market, reacting to the swing, the trend, the thing that's happening right now, as opposed to being a little bit more proactive. So do you have any pro tips on like that path to grow? How do you help people grow in your world?
Well, that word proactive, real estate is a reactive industry. You wake up one morning, decide you want to buy, a piece of land or a house or whatever, and you call your real estate agent, and they go out there and see what's on the market. Our approach has always been proactive. We go out and meet with all the landowners in the county. We're constantly meeting with them, so a lot of what we sell is off-market product. And that's just one aspect of the business, but that's being proactive. And that goes along with intentionality and purpose. if you're just reactive, then you have a job. If you've got a purpose, then you're going to be more proactive. And I think it's a small comment, but it's a massive difference in the way you approach your day.
Got it. I like that. I know a lot of my customers struggle, or they come to us because, salespeople aren't closing enough business, right? And how do we get them asking for the business more, which really to me is a symptom of not having enough in the pipeline anyway. Right? Like, I don't have enough going on, and therefore, like, it feels like I need this deal. And when an opportunity comes up, I don't want to lose this one. And when I'm afraid to lose that one, I carry a very different energy. And so what you're talking about is we're working the market ahead of time, building that network ahead of time before you truly need it.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I always tell people, or salespeople, that you're not in the sales business, in the relationship business. And it's funny because this happened just yesterday. I'm buying a piece of land that a farmer's farming, and I can't close on that land until he gets his crop off the property. And it's a development piece, so I need him to want to get his crop off the property. And I haven't talked to this individual. It was 12 years. It was the last time we spoke. And we spoke for 49 minutes yesterday, and we could have talked all day long. But it was because of the relationship I built with him 12 years ago that we just picked right back up. And so if, people can read you, and if you're just there to make a buck, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but it's a short-lived career. You've got to be there to create a relationship, especially in the ag business and dealing with farmers and landowners. Everybody's going to sell at some point. Most landowners never want to sell. Most farmers never want to sell their land, but they're going to have to at some point. So if you're there and you show you care and you create a relationship, that's a much easier transition from, hey, I've got to sell this land. Somebody passed away, or, the kids don't want it, whatever it may be, versus just some guy that rang him up and said, hey, I'm Johnny with, ABC Realty. You want to sell your land? And that's a hard concept for people to grasp. But, I would say half of our people get it and half don't. Mm-hmm. But it's just like the purpose and intentionality. It's like, are you really there to help the landowner? And of course, and be honest, you're there to make money. No, don't try to disguise it. But in the process, can you help somebody? Can you help that guy, sell for the most amount of money he can get, not just, trade the land? And people, especially landowners, especially farmers, they can read people. They understand people, and they understand if you're there with a good intention or a bad intention. That makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So what would growth look like if you're giving somebody in your company? So let's take the W-2 side of the business. If you're trying to help some of your team get better, improve, whether it's skill sets, mindsets, I don't care, what does it look like inside your culture?
Well, it starts with education. If you ever start learning and growing, then you're dying. That saying holds true. And so, again, if you're going to work for a paycheck, or you're going to work to, with purpose and getting better, today's society, things change so fast. I mean, it changes 1,000 times faster today than it did in 2007 when I started the business. And so we have to create opportunity, but people have to take ownership in their job. They've got to want to get better. They want to grow, and then we have to give them the opportunity to be able to do that. But I would say that's the number one, the number one thing. We actually, and you can relate to this, we used to be heavy on long-term goals, annual goals, 5-year, 3-year. We scrapped all that. It's 90 days at a time now, because the world changes so fast that what we finally realized, probably around 2015, was we would set goals in January, and by November, October, they were irrelevant because the whole context had changed. And so we just started going to 90 days at a time, and we compensate our people, their bonus structures based on their 90-day, what we call rocks, based on the EOS system.
Got it. Okay.
But their bonus system is based on that.
Right. So your incentive system is actually based on 90-day outcomes.
90-day goals every quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And people respond pretty well to that.
They do. You have bonuses are so tricky. If you aren't intentional about them, they just become part of their salary, and if they don't get them, they're mad. And what you tried to accomplish with the bonus backfired. So you have to stay on top of it. You have to be intentional about it, or you just gave a raise and didn't get anything for it.
Mm-hmm. I know that's one thing that a lot of people really struggle with, and it's something I'm looking for a better resource to be able to share with clients is being intentional about how do we create incentive programs that are not just based off of, hey, you're a nice guy. And this legitimately happens. Like you're somebody was a nice guy, and we didn't want to lose him, so we threw him an extra couple thousand, or more here or there. And so there's no real teeth in it, right? There's no real in true incentive, attached, to this thing. And so that's one area that I would love to see more leaders become more intentional about. And part of that, I think, for leaders just stems from like, where's the education on that I struggle to find. I've Googled it and researched it at length, like what's the right system? How do you really create the right incentive structure for different parts of the agriculture industry? And a lot of people really struggle with that. So very interesting. So you recommend the EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System?
Yeah, we implemented bits and pieces of it, like we have with a lot of different systems. But that bonus structure, the ROC structure, is what they call their quarterly goals, or ROCs. I really do like that a lot. And and that was part of the coaching program you and I went through. That's where I first heard about 90-day goals.
Yeah.
And then reading that book came out about the same time. So yeah, I do recommend that.
Yeah. 90-day goals for me have been just 90-day outcomes. Here's something I'm working on for the next 90 days. Last spring I did 75 hard, which is less than 90 days, 75 days, but it was just, you do these 6 things every day, check the box, right? And, you can physically see the results of, your body, your energy, everything starting to change little by little while you go through that, physical and mindset development program. I like
another thing
sprints.
too. Yeah, another thing too, you'll notice, football season's coming up, and especially in the Southeast, it's a religion. And what you'll hear every single coach, especially in college, every single one of them, every single week, one game at a time, 1 week at a time. We have a one game season. I mean, every one of them says the same thing. But there's a lot of truth in that. They're not worrying about the national championship. They're focused one game at a time, 1 week at a time. And it's the same concept, but it's crazy how your successful leaders have all gravitated to that one concept. Don't worry about the end result. It'll take care of itself if you just focus on getting the job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of people really struggle when they're in the heat of the battle day to day. It feels like, well, that's the next one thing. Right? Like that's the next one thing.
Yeah.
So I think we have to differentiate between, okay, we're just reacting to what's going on today versus we're intentionally working toward this. This is the outcome. Is the effort I'm putting in today appropriate and in alignment with what we're actually trying to create? And I think, at least for me, when I'm just like reacting to what's not going perfectly right now, and I'm focused on that, then I take my eye off that next 90-day outcome.
Well, and it also comes down to back on the purpose and intentionality. What the concept is be the best you can be today. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, especially with the world the way it is now. Who knows what the future looks like? The only thing you can do is control today. And if you do your very best today, good things are going to happen over time. And you do that every day. And that's really because it is a fine line between just getting locked into tunnel vision and you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over. The real meat behind what everybody's preaching is focus on today and be the best you can be today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about next week. It'll take care of itself if you're the best you can be today.
Mm-hmm. Incredibly well put. Love it. All right, let's move on. So a lot of people talk about culture. We've tapped on it just a little bit in the last 15 minutes or so. Um, I find very few leaders are really intentional about creating culture within their workplace, culture by accident, if you will. So what to you, Jason, at National Land and in the businesses you've been involved with is the most important thing as it pertains to creating intentional culture?
So and a lot of people might not agree with this, but I don't think culture can be taught or mandated. I think culture is a combination of a bunch of good people working together. I think people create culture. You got to have a direction and an overarching, theme or culture, I guess you could phrase it. But you can have all the best intentions, you can have the best training, you can have every freaking amenity known to man. If you have the wrong people, all you did was just waste a whole lot of money and time. So the number one key that I found in business, and it can go both ways. If you get the wrong ones, it can be a cancer like no other. But if you get the right people, if you surround yourself with people that are better than you, that complement you, that are diverse, then you're going to have a good culture. Now, you got to have somebody that kind of drives that culture a bit. But if you read a book and you try to script a culture, you're just wasting your time.
Wow. I like the abruptness of that, by the way. And I think, you talk about, you need somebody to drive the culture, which, I mean, so if we would say we bring somebody on and after 90 days or a year, it becomes pretty evident, like they're not a good fit for the culture. Is it a situation? Do we try to give that person a chance to upgrade themselves and get into the culture and adopt it? I mean, do we just hire, say, hey, we hired a slow, let's fire
Yeah,
fast? Like, what's your take on how do we defend it?
I've had many thoughts over the years, but now that I'm on the latter part of my business career, I would say it's been just blaringly clear. For the most part, people don't change. If they're a bad fit day one, they're going to be a bad fit year, and one day. And the worst thing you can do is let them hang around, because they will be a cancer and they will infect your company. And it's happened to us and in some companies and situations and offices. And the other thing too is, especially with a company like ours, we're spread all over the country. What drives a culture in Charleston, South Carolina is going to be different than what drives a culture in Omaha, Nebraska,
Mm-hmm.
or San Diego, California. You have to be a little bit flexible as well. I mean, you need to have your base and your principles and your and what what drives your business. But when you try to create a one size fits all, I think you have issues as well. But that slow to hire, quick to fire is, I can just tell you from lots of experience, that is a rule that you should live by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Something just popped into my head as you were talking and explaining, maintaining a culture, especially in an environment where you have 400 independent contractors across the country. How do you motivate someone like that or do you provide any programming to help them grow, to kind of want to get up and go get it? I mean, I guess my hope would be that there's plenty of upside, unlimited upside, for if I can go find enough land to sell and enough customers that want to buy it. But what do you guys do to kind of build that culture of want to go win for somebody who effectively is a 1099 type of team member? And I mean, they are their own business, right?
They're their own business, and they're wired independently. That's why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. So going back to showing that you actually do care, it's one thing to say you care. It's another thing to spend the money on proving you care. So for us, faith is a big part of our company. We have corporate chaplains. So if people have a struggle in their life, they can call the corporate chaplain. We have a monthly virtual Bible study for the whole country. And we also don't jam it down everybody's throat. If that isn't your cup of tea and, you don't want to join, it's not a company mandated thing at all. we have coaching. We've had, I can't remember a time we didn't have some form of virtual coaching or training. All of those things, they cost a lot of money and they take a lot of time. But I think, a lot of people, most people don't take advantage of them. They, maybe 20%. But even for the 80% that don't, you can't deny that we care, that we're trying. I might not get it right all the time, but at least we're giving it our best effort. Doing, I'm here in Charleston, South Carolina. We've got people in Boise, Idaho. There's only so much I can physically do to help those people. I created a system. We've got training. You're kind of off on your own, but I can spend money to offer programs that help assist if they're in a time of need. And man, I'm telling you, the craziest thing about the corporate chaplains, we've had people that didn't want anything to do with the corporate chaplains. Their dog dies. This is a true story. Dog dies. And chaplain's in the office. 45-minute conversation ensues, and that leads to more conversation. And the next thing you know, they really are confiding in this chaplain when they have a death in the family or, trouble with marriage or whatever it may be. But that person is there. That's something that, we've provided for them that shows we care.
Wow. That is really cool. I think you might be about the 11th or 12th interview since we started putting this thing together. And I've yet to hear anybody say that they offer that to their people, which is really, really incredible. And I appreciate you sharing it, man. Very cool.
Yeah. No, and that actually is Corporate Chaplains of America is a business in and of itself. I mean, they are built to be a chaplain for businesses.
Really? Corporate Chaplains of America? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're a big organization. They're all over the country. Highly recommend it. Very affordable. You want to show your people you care. That's a great way to do it.
Wow, that's fantastic. I will make sure that we put that in the show notes, guys, and check into that. That feels like a good fit for your company. So, all right, Jason, we're going to go to a little bit of a speed round here to kind of close things out. So, what's been a big win for you? What's as a leader? What's been one of your biggest wins?
My biggest win, and this goes back to a Tony Robbins event I went to 2004, where we kind of decided, what is your purpose? What are you good at? What are you the best in the world at? What drives you? And I came up with this word called synergist, because ever since I was a little kid, everybody in the neighborhood came to my house to play. I always pulled people together. When I went to college, I was a social chairman. So it made sense that I was able to build a national brokerage firm, because all I did was pull people together to create, for a common purpose, to create a powerful organization. So my biggest win is just the people I've assembled around me. Mm-hmm. And, because I can assure you, if I told you my high school grades and my SAT score, and you probably wouldn't want to interview me. So yeah. I didn't do this on my own by any stretch. I surrounded myself with people that are a lot smarter than me.
Yeah.
And, it paid off. I mean, that was by far my biggest win was, just like yourself and the coaching stuff we've been through, right?
Yeah.
I just was lucky at an early age to know that coaching, mastermind groups, who you hire, who you partner with, all of those things will determine who you become.
Absolutely. So the word was synergist?
Yeah.
Synergist. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's great. Did you go to Clemson? Is that where you went to school? Or where?
I did. I went to Clemson.
Yeah.
I couldn't get into Clemson. I didn't even apply.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like I would not get into the University of Minnesota today based on my grades back then. It would be too hard. So.
Well, I didn't get into Clemson back then based on my grades. I had to go to junior college and I played a little baseball. And, I learned how to study my freshman year of junior college.
Yeah.
I kind of figured it was time to quit playing and start learning.
Yeah, that's great. All right, what's been one of the big hurdles that you've had to overcome as a leader?
Biggest hurdle is the same thing as the biggest win. It's who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with good people, you look like a rock star. You surround yourself with the wrong people, you look like the devil. And I've done both. and that is hands down the biggest win and the biggest loss.
Yeah. Perfect. What's a book or podcast or audiobook, something that people ought to be taking in right now?
Well, the first book I'd recommend is the Bible, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, I think that's an important book to read daily. One of my favorites is just, here on my shelf, As a Man Thinketh. I just love that little book. You can read it on your lunch break. And the Good to Great book, that and the sequels, those were probably some of the most profound. Some of it was timing. Matter of fact, I didn't even mean for this to be here, but I have this little hedgehog that the guy that got me in the land industry, a guy named Dan Bruce, he when I joined up with him in 2003, Good to Great, the book had just been written, and he bought everybody in the company a hedgehog. And everywhere I've ever gone, I've kept that hedgehog that just sits right beside me. But those principles, I think, are profound and everlasting. And so, I would say that's probably a foundational book that I would recommend.
Good. Perfect. The Bible, As a Man Thinketh, and Good to Great. I love it. All right. Last, probably.
And then Built to Last was a sequel to Good to Great.
Yeah. You recommended a book to me years ago that I recommend to people actually, that I really enjoyed. It's actually very relevant to the folks in the ag industry, because it's based off of I believe it's a Case IH manufacturer or dealer, outfit called the Great Game of Business. You remember that one?
Matter of fact, I just started a new business, the heavy equipment business, and I talked to my head guy, the guy who's running it for me. I talked to him yesterday about a Great Game of Business. Great Game of Business that was a phenomenal book. I actually went to Missouri and went to where it started and went through the whole program. And, that's all about open book management and financials. We tried it. It's a bit tricky when you're an entrepreneur, especially in a smaller business, because a lot of times you're not making a profit. And, a big manufacturing company, you can show, if you're not making a profit, Great Game of Business isn't a really good program because you don't have a lot of profit you're sharing. And sometimes that's intentional. And so we kind of backed off of it a bit, but I'm going to probably give it another shot in this new business. And even when I started talking about it, I'm like, but we're probably not going to be profitable for a couple of years by design. And so that open book financial management is key, I think. And this is why most employees believe a business is operating at 33% profit margin, when in reality, they're operating at 3 to 4. So your fear is always going to be in open book management. I don't want people seeing how much money I make. The reality is they think you make 10 times more than you do. And so when they see the struggles you're actually going through, they, I had this happen the other day. I had an agent I met with, and he was kind of down and out, and I told him some hard things I was going through, and he kind of lit up like a Christmas tree. I didn't know how to tell you. It kind of felt good that I had some bad stuff going on, and I think it was because in his mind, it's like, this guy just has it made. Everything's all roses and rainbows. And anybody who runs a business knows, we always think, gosh, man, would I just have been better off being employed and taking a paycheck and go home with my family? Because there's a lot of advantages to that. Now, when you're wired the way we are, you can't do that. But anyways, I think it's a good book for people to investigate, and I think it can work for some, not for others.
Yeah. One of the takeaways I had from it was just helping people understand that, hey, whatever the 60,000, the 80,000, 100,000 or whatever a year that is your salary, or that is your compensation and compensation package. Like, hey, here's how that impacts the bottom line. This is what it's intended to create for the business. This is how it helps solve problems. And I think when people at least understand that component of it, and it's not just another job, right? It's not like, hey, like this actually impacts the other people around me. For me, that gives me a sense of purpose. So very intentional. Good. All right. Hey, last question we probably got time for, Jason. So what do you do to keep your energy up and keep your productivity high?
exercise. I mean, you know, I know it's a routine answer, but in eating, I signed up. You know, Tony Robbins had a new book come out called Life Force, and out of that they created a group called Fountain Life, and it's all about kind of tricking the Mother Nature and the biological clock. So, like, actually, I had a full body scan done about a year ago, and they give you 3 ages. They give you your body. We have your chronological age, and then they give you an age based on a few different components, and then they give you an age based on, if there's no clock, like based on your blood work and your findings, what are you equivalent to?
Mm-hmm.
And I was 33 years old when on chronologically I was 48 or 49, and their job is to rewind that clock. You can actually become younger. You know, you can't do that forever, but and it's not. I'm not sitting here trying to live to be 150, but the concept is the average male, and I might be off a year or two, but the average male has a chronological illness. Not chronological. I mean, I forget the word for it, but a very debilitating illness for the last 23 years of their life. So from 50 to, and they live to be 73, 74, 75, whatever it is. So basically from the time you're 50 till you die, you're pretty miserable physically. And that's just no way to live. You know, their idea is, hey, I want you to be alive one day and dead the next, hopefully when you're a lot older, but you're able to function at a high level until the end. Yeah. And that's, you know, that takes, I get blood work done every quarter and monitoring, and there's a price to it. But the funny thing about health is this program costs $20,000 a year. I don't blink an eye about spending $20,000 on my business, but it's like unheard of to spend. Why would you spend $20,000 a year on your health? That's crazy. And when you think about that comment, that's the dumbest thing anybody could ever say, ever. Like,
well put.
I mean, what are you without your health? You know, and you kind of have to shift gears on the way you think a little bit. But long answer to a short question. But your physicality is that, and your faith. You know, reading the Bible or studying. I mean, I think if you've got your faith and your physical health in the right place, and you're gonna have a pretty good day every day.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic, man. I love what you're sharing. You know, Christine and I we stopped in Orlando. My daughter had a volleyball tournament down there, and the biohacking conference was going on right next door, you know, and so she went in.
That's where my doctor is in Orlando.
Yeah. So we stopped in and I had to go to the tournament, but Christine went in and had got her biological age, you know, figured out, and now we're working on all kinds of things to kind of try to move that backwards a little bit. So I'm gonna be doing the same thing. I've got blood work paperwork sitting here on my desk. Do that at least once a year, you know, just to see, hey, like where are you at, and it's all in the in the essence of, like, not only just living, right? It's not about how long do you get, like how much vitality do you get to experience while you're living. And that's where I find most people are not intentional about that. We're very accidental about that. If you treated your business the same way, or treated your team or your wife or your husband the same way that you treat your body, I mean, they'd all leave you.
Yeah,
right?
They would. Well, and that was part of the book, and the concept is the amount of technology that is out there now for health benefits is insane. And it usually takes 30 years for our medical system in the United States to adopt to a new concept or technology. And it's out there. I mean, just, you know, quick story. I tore a tendon in my foot playing basketball almost a year ago. Got an MRI, everything, you know, everybody's saying it's plantar fasciitis, whatever. I went down there. They took this new little handheld thing, and I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, they ran it over my foot, and they could see where the tear was in the tendon. And then they put memory cells in there, kind of like stem cell. It's kind of a spinoff from stem cell. and fixed it. If they had not have found that, it wouldn't have healed itself. It would have never been fixed. And I couldn't run for like 8 months. And so now, I run every day.
Wow.
So there's just these little things that you can do that the technology is there. It is not at your local doctor's office.
You got to go look for it. Yeah. You got to be intentional and go look for it. Yeah. Good. Really good pro tip. And I want the name because I've got the same thing, something going on the left foot right now that needs to get fixed. So that's great. Jason, any last thoughts or considerations, things we should look into before we go, or how do we get a hold of National Land if we got somebody that needs to buy some?
Yeah, no, if we can help you in any way, it's nationalland.com. We're operating every state and be glad to help.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Hey, thanks for being on here.
All right. Thank you.